Hey guys, so yesterday I was playing at a regional trio of like 89 players and ended up in 3rd place playing Yubel. The reason why I wanted to play Yubel is that going first the deck feels really strong and also kinda unstoppable at some points, especially because all the hand traps like Vela and so on are pretty bad against the deck, and the boards that the deck establishes, they are really strong and really hard to break. That's the main reason why I wanted to play the deck. And also sometimes Tenpai can have an issue at dealing with all the Yubel monsters on your board. That's not the main reason why I wanted to play the deck. And yeah, so let's get into the profile. The first card is Spirit of Yubel, and I only played 2 copies. Most people play 3 copies of Spirit of Yubel, and I think it's kinda incorrect, but there's also a point for it, because sometimes if you build a board and you have this in your hand, the board becomes way harder to break. And the card is kinda quirky, because sometimes if your opponent has a board and you summon this basically reads you win the game on the spot, because he then needs to attack all your monsters and so on. But often you can just search it, and so you can't just deal with your opponent by running over it. And this card overall is pretty solid. But on its own in your hand, it does nothing. That's the main reason why I only play 2, because you need one for the combo, but also sometimes you want to search one to have in your hand as to stop your opponent from pushing through your board. And 2 felt really solid overall. Often, when I played 3, I just did side out to 1 copy, so 2 are definitely fine to play. Then for the brick Yubels, only 1 and 1. This should be played at 1 for all the time. There's no reason to play 2 of this or the bigger one. But many people play 2 copies of Yubel, and there's reason for it, because if you have this one under your rank 10, you need to be able to summon another one to extend your place sometimes. But also, we're in hand trap meta right now. And you don't need to expect to get your full combo out most of the times. So the second copy more often is just a brick that you don't want to have in your deck than really establishing your entire board. And having one was completely fine for the entire event and for the entire testing. So I think 1 is probably correct for now. Maybe if we get into board breaker meta, it might be better. But for now, with all the hand traps, there's no reason to play 2 Yubel. You will never have your full combo established. Then 3 Samsara Lotus. I think there's no reason to explain anything about this. This is your 1 card combo, and you need to play 3 because of consistency reasons. Then a card that some people played 1, 2 or 3. It's Grave Scrammer. I played it at 3 because the card's just kinda crazy. In theory, you can read this card as a Shawara, but instead of setting a trap, it has a reborn effect that's really good in this deck. It's just a solid extender, and I don't see reason to not play 3 of this card. This card always felt good having in hand. Also, if you have 2 of them, you can just go into Yama and start playing from there sometimes. The card is just really good, and I would never cut it down to 2 or 1. For now, maybe in the future when Fiend Slips are there and your deck is getting tighter and tighter, then you might cut it down. But for now, this card feels really good. Then 3 copies of Nightmare Throne and the Terraforming. This card is insanely good. Especially, it's like your best 1 card combo, so you want to max out it, for sure. But it just makes dealing with your board so much harder, because your cards float even more, and also you can float from the banish pile for this. Stuff like this. Nightmare Throne is just an insanely good card, and also being able to search the Beckoning Beast is crazy good. Then 3 copies of Nightmare Pain. It's also just consistency. It taps you unbreaking your hands if your hands are kinda weird. It searches for some Samsara Lotus. And also, the reflecting damage effect is really good, and you will also always want to have access to this. Because I make some Nightmare Pain, often there was a situation where had this in hand and used the effect of Spirit of Yubel to search, and then I was just searching for this, and it was fine. Most of the times I was able to win games then still. But also searching this feels pretty nice. It's just really good follow-up to be able to crush into your opponent's monsters to kill them. But also the Super Poly effect comes up sometimes, and this card felt really nice today. And that's it for the Yubel monsters in my deck. The ratio felt pretty solid overall. Then for the Beckoning Beast engine, I'm only playing 2 of the Beckoning Beast and 3 of the Spirit Gates. In theory, if you open this, it's way better because it's 1 additional body on board. While opening this only leaves you with like 1 body. but this card plays way better around hand traps, because if your opponent's gonna imperm this, or is gonna imperm some Zora, they'll get punished insanely hard because you can just go into Almirage and reborn the monster from that. Also, a nice thing to know about this card is that only the activation is once per turn. So if you're able to establish 2 of those, it's insanely crazy, because you can just discard another permanent spell, reborn, add it back, and use the reborn effect again and add a card back again, because none of those effects are once per turn. So I would at least play 2 of those. This would also be a reason why I would want to play 3 of those, so just as it's more consistent that I have 2 of those on my follow-up, and so on. Also, playing 3 of this would probably be fine, because this card is also just really good. But because it's searchable with the field spell, I felt like cutting down him isn't the worst thing, because then you can just have your non-engine more consistently, and it just felt better for me. But playing 3-3 is also fine, but I would probably not cut down this, because it's just way better at pushing through hand traps. That's it for the Beckoning Beasts. Then 1 Shavara and 1 Chamber. Chamber is just probably the better trap, because it allows you to go into Appaloosa and still have your rage set up. While if you play Escape, it might be better into Tenpai sometimes, because this card mostly is dead against Tenpai if they have the field spell. And Escape can deal with the field spell, but you would need to build different boards. And this card in most other matchups is just way better. And yeah, Shavara, I don't need to explain anything about Shavara, he's a good card. Then for the non-engine. I actually decided to play hand traps instead of board breakers, because Super Poly felt pretty weird overall. In theory, Super Poly is pretty crazy in this deck because of the Yubel fusion, so that you can fuse away the entire board. But a trap basically does the same as an interruption if you're going first, and it's more than enough, I feel like. And also, the extra deck space is really weird with Super Poly. The only thing that I would say is that playing board breakers makes Prosp way nicer in this deck, because then your Prosp would actually dig for board breakers, and if you play hand traps, Prosp is just not as good. But I would really like to play Prosp just to be more consistent in this deck. But with hand traps, it just felt bad. And so, I'm playing 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Raider, triple Nibiru. This card is weird because there's so much of this card literally does nothing, like Voiceless, Tenpai, and so on. But it's still very solid against Fire, and I expected Fire to be the most popular deck, so I wanted to play 3 Nibirus and just side it out in the matchups where it's bad. And overall the card was fine. In the mirror match it once helped me win the game, so Nibiru is still okay. But I also think it's a pretty weird card right now. And also 3 Imperm. Only 12 hand traps, because for the rest of the knowledge I decided to play Dribble Talents and Called By. In theory you could cut Talents into the side, I can play Ogre and play 15 hand traps. But I feel like the 12 hand traps and those 4 were probably the best knowledge that I could have played. I didn't miss any hand traps overall, it just felt fine. Also, if you play board breakers, I would probably... The cards that I did cut were the Vader and Imperm, and I was just playing the Super Poly and Prosperities instead in the main deck. The rest of the main deck was basically the same. But yeah, the non-gen felt solid. For the extra deck, I'm playing 1 card of Almirage. It's mandatory to play this card if you play multiple of the Spirit Gates, just because you need him to extend through hand traps. So Almirage is probably mandatory if you play the Spirit Gates, just really, really good. Also, it's there for SP. Then 1 Dark. Going second times to climb into Appaloosa really fast, stealing SP is crazy. Dark's just overall good, and in real match it's also really funny to push for more damage. 1 Muckraker. I'm playing the Griffin line, and also it's just good follow-up. Muckraker was also solid today. SP, don't need to explain SP, pretty good card I heard. I'm playing 2 copies of Yama. One of the main reasons why I didn't want to play the Super Poly was to play the second copy of Yama, because Yama is probably the main target that you want Imperm in this deck, because all the other cards you can dodge pretty easily. The only card where you could theoretically dodge is you would have Shavara in hand. But because I'm only playing the Shavara, I can't really dodge because there's nothing to add back. And yeah, the second Yama is just really nice because often if you're going first, you'll use the effect of Yama in the grave to go into the rank 10. And having a second one to get into the graveyard is nice. Sometimes you have Fiend Lock because Shavara, but you can't really link it away into anything useful, so you would need to go into Muckracker. So Yama can just be there instead, and you go into it and link it away to the source in the grave. And yeah, like I said, just second one if the first one's getting stopped, so that you can still get access to the Unchained engine easier. Then 1 Rage and 1 Anguish. I think those are pretty self-explanatory, they're really good. Same for Appaloosa. It's on most end boards, except you're playing against deck where Gryphonlock is insanely strong. Then you might probably want to go for the Gryphonlock. But also it feels kind of vulnerable, because if your opponent has Droplet, and you don't end with an Shavara in hand, you can't really just pop it and special summon it. But it's really nice that there's the way that you could play around it by getting Shavara somehow back into your hand, if you pop the Rage or Anguish, and keep Yama in the grave, and then just if it's getting negated, pop it and reborn it, and Gryphon's still crazy then. And then the second card that I did play because I cut Super Poly was Underworld Goddess. I think I summoned her once or twice, but this card was also really solid because the Yubel monsters just float really easily, and then this card becomes really good, especially if it's unexpected. Then, because I'm playing the Eternal Favorite, I'm still playing this. It doesn't come up too often, but if it comes up, it's really, really good. Then for the rank 10s, Raidraptor. It's an Omni-Negate, it's crazy. Yeah, what should I say? All the effects of this card are like insanely good. Then Gustav Max, not just for time. Often, if your opponent has not that big of a board, it's hard for this deck to OTK because it's very easy to crush into your opponent's monster and deal damage through that, than just really pushing for damage on your own. And Gustav Max helps by killing, because like Yama and Shavara are probably the biggest monsters in your deck. So you have only like 4k damage there. And then if you get into Gustav Max, you will just attack with Gustav Max, Yama, Shavara, and burn for 2k, and then you have 9k damage and OTK. And also sometimes you can't crush that often your opponent's monsters. So if your opponent has like a Shangri-Ira in defense on the board, crush him twice, deal 6k, summon Gustav Max, burn for 2k, it's game. So this card came up like 2 or 3 times in the event, and always is nice to have. I'm not playing Liebe, because Liebe only comes up if your opponent has literally no monsters on board. Then it's really nice to go for it, but then also you can just run with this. So most of the times this is just enough, and Liebe is not you can save. And then Typhon didn't come up this event. For the side deck, I was playing 3 Bestials. I still think like Bestials are really solid. For Brand, it's done the Gimmick Lock. For Voiceless, so Brand Bestials inside felt really, really good. I'm not playing like a second Druis right now because I really like having 3 different names so you can't brickcraft Bestials in your hand. And also Saroniers for Voiceless, if they have the Perma spell and you go into SP with Saronier, you can chain block, and you can't chain block with Druis because Druis does target. That's the reason why I play those, and Magnamut is just Magnamut. Really good card. Then triple Cosmic for back row matchups. I think it's just more versatile than cards like Lightning Storm. I just like Cosmic right now. Then for going second, I was playing the Steel cards. They are really, really good. Snapsteel won me a game in the mirror match because he ended with Yubel and the Lotus. And I could just steal his Yubel, and his cards were basically at that turn. Didn't draw this, but both of those cards are really solid going second against all bots that end on Appaloosa or Disparter, because most Omni-Negates are not in the format right now. Raidraptor is basically the only Omni-Negate. There's also playing Triple Droplet, mainly for decks like Branded, outing the Gimmick Pop Lock, going second against most decks you can side this in, it's really solid, except against Shifter decks. But also then, if they don't draw Shifter, it's also mostly good. Droplet also felt really, really good. And then, because I like having fun, I was playing Triple Skill Drain and 1 Anti-Spell. Skill Drain's just a really solid Floodgate in this deck, because if you end with your Yubels and Nightmare Pain, your opponent will still take the damage, and you just keep on floating into other Yubels and kill him with that. So for that, skill drain's really nice. Also, if Raidraptor's flip skill drain, you will probably win because you have a big beater and your opponent will not play the game. And anti-spell is just insanely busted. It's like basically Imperial Order, sometimes better because you don't out your own spell traps like the Spirit Gates and the Nightmare Pain. And because it's one, nobody's gonna play around it or build a deck around it. So if you draw it, you will probably just win the game. So should probably be banned. Great card. So yeah, that's it for my deck profile. I hope you enjoyed and hope some of the insights were helpful at helping your own deck. And yeah, then I really enjoyed playing deck during this event, and I can't wait for Phantom of Yubel to be out because the card's gonna be broken. So see ya.